I hope this video finds you well. This is part 2 of my What's Next series. In it, I'm discussing what happens once the Ukraine situation mellows out some, in which case I argue that the United States will do exactly what it has said. It will pivot to Asia, or more specifically, incite and poke a stick at the dragon, realizing that poking a stick at the bear is not achieving its goals. I have received numerous thoughts and emails concerning the idea that China would retaliate if there was a conflict in Taiwan. Many Americans and many people from the West argue, well, Taiwan is an independent nation. Why should China be so upset about it? And I'm telling you, it's not independent. It's part of China. What would America do if China landed in Texas? What would America do if China gave a nuclear bomb to separatists in California? What would America do? Oh, America would just sit back and say, oh, I'm just going to go do nothing? That's what you're trying to tell me, right? That's the kind of stuff I'm getting in my emails. China is terrified of the United States because it's got 6,000 nuclear bombs. No, it isn't. China does not see the United States as a threat. China sees the United States as a clown car that's broken. And China views Taiwan as part of its territory. That's what it views. You may not want to hear it. You may not want to like it. But it doesn't matter what the hell you think. You go over to that person's house, you beat on their door, you break their window, you crawl inside their house, they're going to pull out a shotgun and blow you away. That's China's reaction. And you can say, I can go to that house over there. I can go over there because my friend tells me that they don't really own that house. Real life is not that way, guys. You can't construct a narrative and expect the whole world to believe it, and you can't construct the narrative and expect the person you're attacking to believe it. China may be many things, but they're not idiots. So they've gamed out this entire scenario, and my guess is, and still is, that before anybody knows what the hell's going on, Taiwan will be part of China, and America will just be holding their dick in their hands, not knowing what the fuck to do. But that's just my personal opinion. Let's kind of run down through why I believe this. Can you give me an example over in the last 50 years where China fucked up, where China made a mistake? I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. Can you give me examples where America fucked up? Oh man, there's too many to name. And that's the reality. You may not want to hear it, you may not want to believe it, but that's the truth, Jack. I'm sorry to break your fucking bubble, but that's it. That's the way it is. Now, yeah. I get a little spicy here. Sorry about that. But I'm going to have to tell you, I'm going to have to underline a couple of things. I said it a billion times, I'm going to say it a billion more times. Taiwan is part of China. It's been there since the Han Dynasty. For those of you who don't know the Han Dynasty, you have zero knowledge of history, so I don't even know why you're even watching this. It's been a long fucking time. And it was so long ago that both Taiwan thinks it's part of China, China thinks it's part of China, The UN thinks it's part of China. Even America says it's part of China. But the American neocons who have controlled the government right now says we are going to say it's an independent country. You're going to listen to these guys? You're going to listen to Tom Cotton? This guy here would be sitting there chewing a grain of wheat in his tooth there, sitting on a fence there, kicking cow turds. You're going to listen here to some of these other assholes? Because that's what they are. They're real fucking assholes. You see what they've done. You see Hunter Biden, huh? That's the kind of life all these people live. Cocaine, addicted, psychopaths, sociopaths with lots of money. Oh, fuck, man. That's the reality. That's the fucking reality, guys. But then again, guys, let's discuss why I say this. So I'm making a couple of points here. And these points I'm going to have to elaborate on a little bit because you're not getting any good intel. Number one, it's Chinese territory. Taiwan is part of China. Everyone in Taiwan has Chinese residency. Everyone. They all speak Chinese. They all observe Chinese holidays. They all have relatives and friends in the mainland. Polls indicate that the majority of people in Taiwan like things just as they are, and only a small fractional minority wants independence. No matter what the bang, 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 clang, clang, clang is arguing for. And just like Ukraine, the NED, which is CIA people, put a pro-American asset in Taiwan. And this asset is got its name, it's hours, it's days, it's weeks, maybe years numbered. To understand what's going to happen when America pivots to Asia, you have to fully understand and comprehend what China is today. Merit-driven, aggressive, manufacturing things on a dime, mass produces things that they need, allied with Russia, a nuclear power that makes big nuclear weapons, enhanced to be extra lethal. And instead of concentrating on pinpointing an exact location, they just blow out the entire area. Figure, why not? What the heck? So there's collateral damage. Well, all's fair in war, you know. That's the Chinese way. But what about the newspapers? Yeah, what about the newspapers? You mean the newspapers that says that China's bad all the time? China bad, China bad, China bad, China bad? You think that if you villainize somebody so many times, they don't care what other people think. They don't care if they think you're a villain or not. Don't you understand, guys? Listen to what I'm telling you. You created a villain, so it's no problem for them to act like one. They're not even going to try to be nice. This is a very important concept that I think it goes right by people's heads. Have you ever had a friend who's been picked on, and people pick on them and make fun of them, saying you'll never succeed, you'll never do anything, you got dick for brains, you might be book smart, but you never be anything, and then when you're working out of your mobile home, and unemployed, they drive by in their nice Porsche with a pretty girl on each arm. You've heard that narrative. That's a real narrative because it really exists. China has been villainized, so there are no chains of constraints holding it back. Oh, Russia's been villainized a little bit, but not like China. So Russia has restraint. Russia shows restraint. Russia's been very restrained this entire Ukraine episode. China won't be. China will fucking slaughter. I want you to learn that word, slaughter, because that is the best word that I can use to describe what happens when you encounter China. Slaughter on a mass level. Now, there's been a bunch of movies about how America lost battle after battle after battle after battle when it fought the Chinese in Korea. I would like to say that America won this battle or that won that battle. No, they didn't. They fucking lost all of them in massive casualties. Massive casualties. It was a clusterfuck. And these were troops right out of World War II, the best of America's bests, shipped off to Korea as an afterthought. Maybe not an afterthought. Certainly not well thought out of. And China fought. But anyways, so yeah. You don't read too much. If you're an American, you probably read nothing about the Korean War. And the only television show about the Korean War that you ever see is maybe MASH, which is about a hospital, field hospital in Korea. But you never see any movies about Korea or anything, because it's intentionally omitted, because it was such an ugly stain on the American psyche. Now, China has been producing high-quality historical war dramas about Korea. And there's a lot to use from, because America suffered defeat after defeat after defeat throughout Korea. And no matter how much weapons and materials and bombs that they dropped, it still lost against illiterate peasants that didn't have formal military training. And China has documented these in a series of war dramas. And they're great. You can watch them in China. But distribution outside of China, all of the distribution rights to these movies have been bought up during the Trump presidency by a group out of California. And this group intentionally buys up the rights and sits on them and doesn't allow anybody to view them. Not in theaters, not on media, and not on YouTube. The moment it comes up, they squash it. And I know, because I had a 2-minute excerpt from one of those movies. And they said, nope, you can't even show that 2-minute excerpt. Well, I'll figure out ways around that. I'll figure out other things to do. You got to see these movies, guys. It shows you how China works. Maybe you can't be here in China and see how they work day to day, but man, you got to see the real thing. You got to see how China works. You got to see how China thinks. And once you see how China works and China thinks, you will absolutely go over to Washington, D.C. and lynch these neocons. You'll lynch them. You will fucking pick them up, carry them out on a rail, tie them down, and set them on fire. You will lynch them, because they are walking the United States down a path that you don't want to go down. And it's going to be very, very, very bad. I know you don't want to hear that. So the big contention that everybody seems to have problems with is the idea that China will fight back. There is not one single military planner, not one single study by Rand that says that China won't fight back. So I don't know where anybody gets this idea that China will sit by. I don't know where anybody gets this idea that America can put a carrier right off the coast of China and go plinking Chinese cities. I don't know where this idiocy comes from. Is these professional trolls? Or are you guys really believing this kind of nonsense? I find it really hard to believe that any American would be that stupid. I really find it hard to believe. Have you ever met a lazy Chinese person? Have you ever met a Chinese person that doesn't think things out? Have you ever met a Chinese person that isn't diligent or hardworking? Well, if you have, then you can keep that belief and that can picture whatever you think's going to happen. I'm sure there's one or two out of the billions that exist. So, China believes that if you're going to have a war, you do it harshly, with everything you've got, with no holds barred. That's going to be a pretty fucking hard, difficult thing for the United States and its proxy nations to fight against. Knowing full well that if you trigger China, China will hit you very hard from day one. So far, all the actions have been tit for tat. Sink a Chinese submarine here, sink an American submarine there. Destroy a Chinese VTOL, destroy an American VTOL carrier. Try to induce famine in China. Whoa, what's happening right now in the United States? Tit for tat actions. But if you try to do anything on Chinese territory, and Taiwan is Chinese territory, then you are invading it just as well as if China dropped paratroopers in New York City. Same thing. And people, the result of that is going to be very ugly. And if you have a war situation, a full ongoing war, who do you think's going to exist? Do you really think America's going to make it? Do you think America is strong enough? Do you think a war is going to unify America like the neocons think? Because God is great? I'm speaking in tongues. Christ is in me. Fight the war for me. Have you ever been to a charismatic church? These people actually believe that. I look pretty weird doing it, don't I? You got to see that this is the real deal. You don't know what a charismatic church is? You don't know what charismatic Christians are? I used to be a member of a charismatic church. I used to be charismatic, and I was a sincere believer. But whenever the narrative started to go towards giving money to help with the cause, and doing this to help with the cause, and we got to help the poor Uyghurs because we have to have a war against there, that's when you have to start drawing the line. You're being manipulated. They pull at your heartstrings. Those people, those mercenaries that are fighting right now in the Ukraine, look at them. Why are they doing it? They say, well, I want to help the poor Ukrainians. No, they don't. That's their cover story. That's not what they want to do. You know, you're either an idiot. You just don't do that, guys. That's not healthy for you. You see, people, China isn't building up all these nuclear weapons just as a deterrent. China doesn't think that way. They believe that you have to always make sure that you have the proper tools to accomplish the task at hand. If you don't have the proper tools, then you make do and improvise with what you have. And that's China. And if you can't understand that about China, then you don't understand China. And if you don't understand China, you don't know what you're dealing with. I'm one of the lone voices out there that's telling you what you're dealing with. And you all should listen to me. Now, I will tell you that China presently is involved in a lot of things that is not being reported and you are not aware of. And on the surface, the news is hyping nuclear weapons and this and that and this and that. I argue that China can conduct war on many levels, and America is fragile on many, many levels. The best thing to do when dealing with Russia is not to play with them, and the best thing to do with China is don't even think about it. In the game of chess, America is in check right now. I might even argue that America is in checkmate, but there's so much that we don't know, and so many things that we are unaware of. The best that we can do and the best things that we can think about have to do with what we are observed, and the news that we see is just real garbage. I once did a drawing showing an iceberg, and you only see the top of the iceberg. But you got some idiot that's carving a picture on top of the iceberg, so you really don't know what's there. But you do understand things being done surreptitiously. You do understand things being done in secret, right? China's a peaceful nation. China doesn't want to hurt anybody. They just want to live a good life, protect its people, and move the human race forward. And they're doing that. That's all they want. And the United States is just run by a bunch of corrupt, addle-minded, moronic psychopaths who seem to believe that God has given them that role. God hasn't given them anything. And because of that, we got this situation right now where we're pretty much facing, the world's facing nuclear Armageddon during this next 2-year time period. And I'm saying that it may happen via Russia. If America decides to pivot to Asia, it will happen via China. And already you can see the RAND reports. There was a latest RAND report that came out that argued that the best thing for the United States to do is to put nuclear weapons in Japan and in the first island chain. Well, first island chain is Taiwan, so I'm going to tell you something. You put nuclear weapons in Taiwan, and then you will see China nuke them. China will destroy any location that is claimed to have nuclear weapons in Taiwan. They will just destroy it. Gone. Poof. They will not play. They will glass the entire area if they have to. And you need to understand that fundamentally, because this is something that these geniuses in RAND aren't taking into account. In China, people are a dime a dozen, guys. You think China gives a fuck? Do you really think China cares? Do you think China cares what you think? You're dealing with a totally different beast, people. and they are gonna fucking chew you up and spit you out. Have you seen the physical entrance standards for the United States Army? Have you seen that? Have you seen the marching of the Secretary of Defense as this big walrus, this big black walrus, waltzes down in front of these big fat soldiers wearing their dress blues with these big belly guts? Have you seen those pictures? I have. Brings a tear to my eye. What the hell happened to the Corps? Huh? What the hell happened to the Corps? So far, you're not getting much in the way of intelligence at all, except to say that you're dealing with a totally different beast right now. That many people have no idea how China would react and what China thinks. You're getting ideas of what China thinks from Fox News and from Politico. Those are not what China thinks. Those are what people think reading articles that are propagandized think. And I'm the only one, I'm the lone voice out here that's saying if you mess with China, China will fuck you up. I'm the only one who's saying it. And I could go through the stats. China's ready to... oh, God. Already, you've got submarines and missiles pointing to the United States throughout Russia and throughout China. So, like I said before, there's a shotgun to America's head. There's a shotgun to America's stomach. I received a comment this morning from a guy, and he says, you know, it seems to him that the ruling class in the United States has fucked over the American people so badly that there's no way out. Their solution is to allow Russia or China to destroy all of America, and somehow they're going to escape. Oh, God. It sounds so science fictionish, doesn't it? It really does. But you know what? I think that's true. Why not? That's the only thing that seems to make sense. I once had a friend. Have you ever partied and seen people who are so fucked up, and then the next day they do it again, then the next day they do it again, then the next day they do it again, and they're constantly in a state of drug-addled alcoholism, and they're not thinking right. Maybe the long-term effects makes them a wet brain. We call it a wet brain if they drink too much over and over time, or they're so addicted they're not thinking. They're on a high and they're on a low, and they're high and they're on a low, and they're acting irrationally. And people get like that when they're crazy. Like when you have a mental illness, you know, anybody who's been married to somebody who's had a mental illness, you know, oh, lordy, 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 they are not thinking right. But if you've known friends that are doing drugs or out drinking, you know when they're not thinking right. Oh, I can just drive the car. Or hey, let's go rob that store. It's like they're just not thinking right. They're just not thinking right. And so, yeah, that's what's going on in the United States today. These rulers, these leaders are just, they're way out there in Never Land, and then they're relying on reports done by capable people. I'm sure there's capable people in Rand, but I can guarantee you this: all these people that are making these recommendations from Rand, as knowledgeable as they are, I don't think any of them's ever been in modern day China. They might have visited it for a week. They might have even spent 2 weeks or about 10, 20 years ago, but they don't know what it is today. They haven't seen it since the coronavirus lockdowns. They have no idea what China is, since China has been mandating everybody get military training. They probably don't even know that that's the law. Betcha. And so this is part 2. Hopefully it's not meandering too badly. What I just want to underline again is the sole point of this. I've been told, and emails come to me saying that I'm wrong. America has a sizable nuclear deterrent of 6,000 nuclear weapons, and that will deter China. And I'm telling you that a 30 kiloton bomb needs a launcher that cannot be intercepted and reams of communication that cannot be interrupted, and a launching position that cannot be destroyed. I argue that worst comes to worst, that's what's going to happen, but America is going to be in tatters long before that happens. China still has payback that it must complete regarding some of the things that the United States has done to it. Everything has to be balanced, don't you understand? It's the yin-yang. The yin-yang. China believes in balance. The yin-yang. Or in the United States we say it the yin-yang. Yin-yang. Has to be balanced. So all the stuff that's not being reported in the United States still happened, still must be balanced for, still must be compensated for, still must be corrected. And that's what you're seeing right now. And if the United States, in some great act of great inertial stupidity, decides to pull a Rand on Taiwan or on China, then it's adios muchachos. And I'm sorry about that, guys. But on the plus side, everything will grow back.
Alpha 15107。对世界对自我失望过，回避过放弃过遗憾过，现在的我不想再闪躲，就算有人笑我做梦，我先不上来会被选中，不会向命运低头。我知道我有种不灭的火种。如果心底现在被触碰，还能有冲动。如果后悔未来，又要去怪谁才不同？就算没有成功，也好过面对到最后。都不喜欢的我，执着的理由我还没听够，若一无所有。向前走，有苦衷不说，只相信应有，燃烧心底最深角落。冲破，对世界对自我失望过，回避过放弃过遗憾过，现在的我不想再闪躲，若白头比懦弱光荣，多少人生来就被选中，但他们不懂得奋斗。冷漠的狂风，就算苦等永恒，总有天冰雪消融。苍老一抬起头，用力看看这宇宙，星空下平凡的你会选择怎样活？我要你回头，要你自由，要你冲破牢笼，不怕痛，不认怂，不甘平庸 ，nothing in my world is impossible。敢不敢鼓起奋勇 say come on， 就跟我走。对世界对自我失望过，回避过放弃过遗憾过，现在的我不想再闪躲，若白头比懦弱光荣，制造
Wrong number. Buhawis. I see the world going through a period of adaptation, a change, moving through this period of change, and change is always uncomfortable. The worst realization of it would be a war, a nuclear war. That would be the absolute worst, and I really don't want that. I don't want anybody hurt. I think there's more than enough killings and sadness and destruction in the Ukraine. I don't want to see any more of it. But I got to tell you, these assholes in Washington, D.C. think it's not enough. They're pouring more and more weapons in the Ukraine. They want more war. And it's not just that, but it's also the Euro weenies, the rulers in Europe, and Morrison's regime. If you think Morrison is democratically elected, I got news for you. He's a fucking regime. I can't believe any Australian would vote for this guy. And they want more war, and that's what I'm talking about. There's a minority of idiots that really are pushing the world towards war, and they're going to end up being bitch slapped. I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry to say that, but that's reality. Okay. And I want peace. China wants peace. China really wants peace, and they're going to do things to create this peace, realizing that you have to, of the multitude of issues that are going on, they have to take this issue, this issue, this issue, and each issue they have to deal with it. And what's going on right now, as I write this, as I'm speaking this, is these issues are happening. They're being adjusted. China is taking a wrench and a screwdriver and adjusting these issues. By the time a pivot to Asia occurs, there might not be the ability for suppression of China, and Russia would be much stronger. Yeah. So, while we talk about all-out contentious war and death and destruction, those are worst-case possible scenarios that are a natural consequence of the United States taking very direct, nasty actions. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So I mention it here just so that everybody has an understanding about what the stakes are. But in reality, what's probably going to happen, more than likely going to happen, is that there's going to be a very, very degree of discomfort domestically within the United States, and an inability to do this pivot that is so desirous of the neocons. You have to understand that for all these 800 plus bases, they all have men and materials that must be paid for. You have to feed these people. You have to provide them salaries. This spending using credit, the value of this US dollar, the dollar is decreasing in value. Inflation is eating everything apart. You have to have pay raises with money that is finite in capability and capacity. So what's going to happen is it's going to be increasingly hard for this military adventurism to occur. And I think that's something that the Chinese are planning on. If they weren't, it's something I'd be planning on, so I'm assuming they'd be planning on it. Yeah, I know. I must do it, so therefore they must do it. That's a mindset that all of us have. It's a dangerous mindset, isn't it? So, all this rambling here, I'm going to chill it out. The Ukraine was in part one. I talked about how the Ukraine is going to mediate and mellow out, okay? And it's going to stabilize at some point in time. Then within a 6-month period of time after it seems to be stabilizing, you're going to see a pivot to Asia. And China's going to get involved. America's going to do the 1, 2. Except the 1 was pew. Then America's going to try a 2. And China's going to go like that. And hopefully all of us will not suffer too much discomfort. And I'm talking about all of us, I mean you in the audience, whether you're in Europe or in the United States. I don't want any of you to be hurt. In fact, I don't want inflation to eat away your lives either. I'm talking to my brother in the States, and I'm talking to my friends in the States, and I'm talking to you in Georgia and you in Florida. I don't want anything to happen to you guys. I don't. In fact, I just wish that every state in the United States would become an independent state and you all just throw out the federal government. That'll give you 30% of your income back. Right like that. And then you can start rebuilding your lives to something half decent. The federal government is like this big, massive parasite on the backs of all Americans right now. And it needs to go away. And everything else is trivial. I really don't want to see anybody hurt. And that means you. When I say Euro weenies, I don't mean you guys that are living in France or living in Germany or living in Poland. My ancestors are from Poland. I don't want anything to happen to you guys. And I got friends in Germany, friends in Spain and Italy. I don't want anything to happen to you guys. Not one thing, for zero reason. But when I say Euro weenies, I'm talking about your leadership, because they're like Louis XIV, okay? These people there needs to be a revolution, and that is what's going on. It's a global revolution. It's a tilt and a change in the way things are being done right now. It's true. It's true. And I can even almost guarantee it that China just wants the world to continue and America to accept a lesser spot in the world. That's what they want. Just accept it. Accept the reality. Accept that you squandered your resources. You squandered everything. You mismanaged everything, and now you have to deal with it, and don't blame them. The rest of the world just wants to live their lives, and they don't want to. I can tell you that China does not really want to buy all these weapons, set up and do all this weapon training and everything. They really don't want to do it. They'd rather be setting up bases on the moon and on Mars instead. They'd rather be doing other things and improving the lives of people. They really don't want to do that, but they're being forced to. So what's going to happen? And I'm sure you're all asking this, so I'm going to have to summarize it because I'm long in the tooth and rambling terribly. So what's going to happen? So what's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. When Ukraine calms down and cools down, there's going to be a pivot to Asia. The United States is going to start doing things. Certainly they have been doing things, and more things are on the works. You've got the Solomon thing, Australia, you've got Japan, you've got things going on in Korea. Certainly there's things in the works, but you're going to start to see some actual movement regarding China. While that's going on, a series of non-visible things, which are currently in process right now, are going to start maturing. these things will hinder any pivot to China implementation. The things that America wants to do for the pivot of Asia will become very, very difficult to do for one reason or the other, because the systems that require them to occur are broken or not working very well. And then there's two options for the United States. Do a half-assed pivot to China or pivot to Asia, or don't do it at all. There's a third option, obviously, which is destroy the whole world, throw the board in the air, but I think the United States would have done that already. So those are really what's going to happen. And China will adroitly handle both of those scenarios because they have gamed them out. And like I said, their shotguns pointed in the United States' head and belly. And so what that means is that unless the United States has a death wish, which it shouldn't, but I think the leadership does, but the United States doesn't, you're going to see a rough period in the next year and a half, 2 years, and then a new normal will occur. And as I said, these will be little bads, not big bads. I don't anticipate global thermonuclear war. Instead, I anticipate changes in lifestyle for all participants out in the West. And because I so strongly believe that this lesser of scenarios will occur, not nuclear war, but rather economic and financial collapse in the West, because I'm so concerned about this, and because I have so many friends, loved ones that I care about deeply in the United States and the West, and Australia too, guys, that I really am hoping that you all can manage through this period of readjustment, which is an uncomfortable one. So I offer my suggestions on how to handle it. Right now, you just alter your lifestyle slightly. Become less reliant on your car, less reliant on food purchases in grocery stores, less reliant on this and less reliant on that, and less reliant on energy. Not a lot. Right now, you're 100% reliant on energy coming from the power lines. You need to reduce that. Right now, you're 100% reliant on gasoline that you get from others. You need to reduce that. Right now, you're 100% reliant on eating out in restaurants. You need to reduce that. These things are prepper behaviors. You don't have to go hog wild and start milking cows and stuff. But you should start looking at supplementing how you eat with some natural alternatives. Having a garden. Gardening's fun. Canning's fun. Riding a bike is fun. Just do it once a week to work. Maybe you'll say, hey, why wasn't I doing this sooner? And you'll be a better person for it. And along with that, of course, is going to stuff that I've always talked about. Be part of your community and help others. Smile a lot. Be good to dogs and cats. Come on, guys. These are things I've always talked about. Be the Rufus, guys. And I want to do some concluding statements just to underscore these stuff. While I talked a lot about how China would fucking nuke the world if it needed to, it's not going to. Instead, these behind-the-scenes events are occurring. That's a controlled collapse of the financial economic systems in the West. And as these systems collapse, you don't need, the viewer, I don't want you guys to be in the middle of this going, what the fuck's happening? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Because already you will have taken steps to reduce your, they say carbon footprint, to reduce your dependence on buying gasoline at a gas station, to reduce your dependence on having to go to the grocery store every week. You have taken steps to reduce things. That you already have rice at home and you make simple meals. You grow gardens. You might even have a chicken where you're laying eggs and you're eating a fine protein-rich meal of a couple eggs every day with a very little extra work. By the way, if you're in Australia, there's some great breeds of chicken out there, unique to Australia. Good stuff. And that's also true in the United States. Make sure you get an egg breed that's really good for laying eggs. There's all different types of chickens, so if you have any doubt, find somebody who raises chicken, pick their brains, ask them questions. A chicken coop, guys, is the size of a doghouse, and that'll supply you, 3 chickens will supply you with more than enough eggs. Give some eggs to some friends, huh? Neighbors. Doesn't cost very much. You can even have a chicken coop in an apartment. So guys, I'm asking you guys to calm down. And while I talk a lot about the worst case scenarios, because certainly the drum beat for the worst case scenarios is beating really, really loud. I'm telling you why it will happen if it's pushed really hard, but what I really think is going on and how for you to prepare for it. And for those of you who think I don't love America, and I don't love Australia, and I don't love Europe, you're wrong. I really, really think that there's a lot of good stuff. It's hard to tell with all the bullshit that's going through. You got to scrape off the bullshit. But there's a lot of good in the States. A lot of good. I wanted to immigrate to Australia. I fell in love with Australia so much. You guys don't understand how Australia affected me. I really fell in love with that place. But my wife had a mental illness. I couldn't move. In the meantime, guys, you know the drill. Be part of a community. Do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember,